thanks to the overinfluence of mega churches, the inability to escape our own echo chambers, and the vast myriad of problems that came out of the 2020 pandemic, digital ministry has taken quite the beating over the past couple of years. We've seen that doing online digital ministry halfway is not cutting it, right? And the key to digital success is purpose, intentionality, and authenticity. A few times now, we've gotten to talk with Jay Cranda, who's the online pastor at Saddleback Church. And I feel like every time I talk to him, I learn something brand new about online church. He says this quote that I really, really love by him. Technology isn't an age thing, it's a vision thing. If you're gonna embrace digital ministry, whether that takes the form of online church or something else entirely, you have to actively and intentionally adopt it into the core of your church's culture. And the same long-term investment, intentionality, and commitment that you give to your in-person ministry is also necessary for your on-person or your online presence. And he makes a good point. So for those of us that are passionate about growing our online ministry, we talked about our strategies from before. There's a chance you lean traditionalist, which is totally fine. But for those of us that are wanting to pioneer, that are wanting to move into growth, the most important next step that we need to all take is to make sure that our team's visions aligns with our organization's visions. What you do needs to connect to the heart of your organization if it's gonna have any kind of healthy, long-term sustainability or longevity. And once you align with the vision of your organization, you can start to develop a digital roadmap. Digital roadmap is not an idea that's exclusive to us. Rather today, I just wanna give 3 quick ways you can develop your digital roadmap, 3 quick questions that you should be asking. First, what do you want your digital ministry to look like? Second, what are you going to do to get there? And third, how will you know when it's working? This is a good starting point for developing a digital roadmap. You should expand upon that. You should make it more custom for your experiences in your churches, but that's a good place to start. And then as you develop your own digital roadmap, it'll be easier to tackle the discussions, the issues that we talked about today. While we can't help every single person in this room right now, we got the timer ticking down very quickly, we do want to at least give 3 potential, more specific strategies that are great starting points to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And the first of these strategies is to digitize your mission. According to the experts, we're bombarded with anywhere between 4,000 and 10,000 ads every single day, which is mind-blowing if you think about it. Driving here, you probably saw 5 or 6 or 7 different billboards that you kind of just shut out, but your mind still subconsciously saw them, right? The hard thing is that we're all competing with every other business and company and billboard and creator and social media ad for the exact same space. We're all trying to vie to get into the algorithms that go in front of our audience. We want to be seen by them, but we have massive competition. And our community, especially with our calling, with our pursuit of the Great Commission, our community needs them to meet them in a way that actually matters, more than toothpastes or online dances or the next big award show, right? And if you're here, you've already put in the hard work. Your organization's already put in the hard work of establishing your vision and your mission statement, right? This is the driving force of your organization. So with this step of the digital roadmap, once you align with your organization's vision, the hard work lies in translating that vision or that mission into the digital space. In a way, we have to develop what is essentially a digital hermeneutic, in which we're translating biblical principles and values into the language and the cultures of the spaces that we're occupying. Before we move any further though, I feel like it's important to say one thing before we get through the rest of these things, and that's that your ministry does not have to be everywhere all at once in order for it to be effective.
Amen.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. Come on. This is an important thing because we've gotten so caught up in the fact that we feel like we gotta be on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and MySpace and GodTube. There's so many things that we're trying to find and pursue. But we don't have to be everywhere all at once, right? I wanna say that just one more time before I move on. For those that are in the back of the room and those that are online, your ministry does not have to be everywhere all at once in order for it to be effective. At the end of the day, you all know this. We got a lot of people that are tired in here. We got a lot of tired content creators. We've already talked to a couple. And at the end of the day, our teams only have a limited amount of resources, God-given resources. And the more you divide and overextend those resources, the less effective each of those individual avenues will be. So when digitizing your mission, begin to ask the question of what is the most effective uses of the resources that you have. Then begin to learn from the people that are most effectively pulling off ministry or production or experiences in those spaces. Caleb loves to argue that there's no such thing as an original idea. I get that right, Caleb?
It's close enough.
All right. But really, though, he does make a good point in that every single creative concept that we have is a combination of our perspective, the content we consume, and the sticky ideas that are all around us. So what that means for our ministries as we create is while we all want to emulate our favorite content, we need to be very careful not to just copy someone who's doing it better. You shouldn't try to be Discount Bethel because you should be learning instead about the callings and giftings that you are explicitly and exclusively equipped to fulfill. So we're not called to just distribute content that follow trends, but rather we're invited to translate our message into a brand new language. So I know that's a lot of philosophy and concepts. So let me break down a couple different ideas for you, 3 practical examples of this idea. So the first is to meme the message. Caleb and Nick both go to Grand Rapids First, and they created this meme out of a popular office template at the time. Without hearing the point of the message, you probably get the idea of what Pastor Sam's message was about, with one little meme and a little bit of reference for the office. For someone scrolling on their feed by Grand Rapids First Instagram, this is a super easy thing to just engage and interact with. It's quick. It's as quick as a like. But what the interesting thing is, something as quick as this might make them have the next decision to visit their Instagram. And then from there, they might want to track down the sermon. And then from there, they might just watch the entire service. And at that point, they might just experience and find your church, right? Could something as simple and easily accessible and easily as popular as a meme be an easy way to help your audiences understand your church's most important messages? Another idea is to embrace the format. I'm gonna get out of the way because there's a looping TikTok about Elon Musk, which is super relevant based on yesterday's conversation. But the Washington Post is a news publication based out of Washington, D.C. They hopped onto TikTok in 2019, and you would think something like a popular professional publication like the Washington Post might make something like, I don't know, maybe a talking head news segment or maybe an on-site video, but rather their creative team decided in the middle of the pandemic while they were stuck at home to embrace the creative short-form version or content that TikTok creates. Because of this site, TikTok, a very professional, certified, formal publication site was able to pull back a little bit and access a different audience, making news accessible and easy to understand. Each of their videos are less than 30 seconds, and they talk about a relevant piece of news that someone that's on TikTok can just consume just like that. And the cool thing is that this content is probably reaching younger audiences that would never, ever open a Washington Post article. Instead of posting whole clips to our sermon, or to whole clips of our sermon to our TikToks, which we've seen oftentimes are largely ignored, what if we use this sort of widely accepted low-budget sketch format in order to communicate the points of a message? And then finally, we can continually learn from the masters, the people that are doing the best. During the pandemic, Crossroads Church in Ohio, for example, flipped the standard worship template on its head, basically bringing in elements inspired by TED Talks and inspired by late night shows. They featured content that was inspired by the masters of communication, the masters of public speaking, and thanks to their creative teams, they were able to make the quality of this program highly engaging beyond just the message. Post-pandemic, they, like Caleb was saying, at the opportunity to open back up, they went back to a pretty standard 65-minute template service, right? Worship, message, worship, everything else. But they also created a second piece of content, which is online, which I believe some of our speakers yesterday talked a little bit about. They now offer a 25-minute YouTube-style program featuring multiple segments created exclusively for the people that are only going to be watching online. They understood that their audiences are most likely to engage with content that's made explicitly for them, and they invest their resources in a way that shows it. So in what ways can we best learn from these digital pioneers that are going above and beyond to focus on the online audience exclusively for our own online audiences? Well, this is not an exhaustive list. There's not just 3 people doing a decent job at it. It does show that there are plenty of great creators that are engaging the digital space in an effective and in a unique way. They teach us that the potential for what we create is only limited by how we digitize our mission.